priorities of this government to start talking to the Macedonian side again. Frankly, from a citizen's point of view, this is probably the best place we have been for the past so many years.
Hello, Vessela. Welcome to Debates Digital and Debates on Europe. You're deputy head of the European Council on Foreign Relations and head of the Sofia office. And we are going to talk today about what is happening in Sofia and in Bulgaria. Fill us in a little bit. You've had 3 elections only in this year. What has happened?
First of all, thanks a lot for having me. And Bulgaria is not always interesting to watch, but I believe this year it has been repeatedly in the news, exactly as you said, because of those 3 elections. In my mind, this was in a way going through some sort of a public perjury, if you like, after 12 years of Borisov. Public was really tired of him. People wanted to get him out. Corruption, mismanagement had become a daily routine. And that's really something sad to say after all these years of EU membership. And it was, however, not quite clear how to replace Borisov or what to replace him with, which is why people would vote for random parties, newcomers. All in all, there was a clear vision that we need something else, something new. And now, after this 3rd election, a majority transpired, a majority of 4 parties. So it's a complicated coalition, which signifies exactly that need for a change.
The leading party in that coalition is actually called We Continue the Change, and it's headed by 2 young men with Harvard degrees. Is this really, in your eyes, a sign for a potential democratic renewal in Bulgaria?
The election before the last, we had again a new party emerging. That was the party of a showman, Mr. Slavi Trifonov, who was famous by his patriotic, populist, but also slightly unclear political views, with the only kind of slogan of doing away with the previous elite. And I think this is a major difference now. We continue change, the political party of Mr. Petkov and Mr. Vasilev also is clearly one that wants to change things, but these are people who are qualified in terms of their educational background. When they talk about policies and about public interest, they seem to know what they're talking about. And I think this is, in a way, a very good result after those, not only after those election cycles, but also after those years of Borisov, in which we frankly had forgotten what meritocracy was about.
Next year, actually on the 1st of January, 2022, it will be 15 years since Bulgaria joined the European Union. Still, corruption is endemic in the country, and it's a problem child of the European Union. At the same time, you have the biggest protest and the longest protests. You've seen that on the streets of Sofia and elsewhere in Bulgaria. How sustainable is this change, this urge for change?
I mean, look, we can probably talk about it in a year's time, and then we will know more. But currently, what one can see is a very, I would say, detailed government agreement that has been forged among the four parties in the governing coalition. That government agreement, which is 180 pages long, it reminds us a bit of the German coalition negotiations. It was produced in much shorter time scale. It was produced within 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but the fact is that it goes deep into what is possible and what is desirable in various public domains. And I think this is also welcome change, because while the EU has tried to, support kind of longer term planning processes and so on, Borisov's government had become famous at the end by its very short horizon. So he would plan within 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, and you cannot really neither modernize nor develop a country if you don't have a longer horizon and if you don't construct a framework of public policies that fit together. Again, it will be a complicated affair, given that you have not only this leading party, We Continue the Change, but also you have the former communists of the Bulgarian Socialist Party. You have I would say, the urban liberals from democratic Bulgaria, the Greens being also part of them. And you have Mr. Trifonov's party, which I mentioned at the beginning. So this is a very diverse coalition. And I think it's probably easier to put things on paper rather than implement them in this rather complicated constellation. But frankly, from a citizen's point of view, this is probably the best place we have been in for the past so many years.
Why has it taken so long? Bulgaria has a lot of problems, but one of the problems is demography. It's a shrinking nation. Not only the brightest people leave, but there's a big exodus from the country, where emigration is much more of a problem than immigration. That means, of course, also that this kind of critical mass for democratic renewal or anti-corruption reforms is becoming weaker. Is this a too naive view from the outside?
I think this is part of the truth. As we saw during the protests last year, there is quite a big critical mass of people who really want reforms. At the same time, COVID did help because a lot of diaspora Bulgarians had come back for the time of the COVID lockdowns, and they were also participating in these protests. You could clearly see them. But I think in Europe today, exodus is a bit of a strong word. A lot of people, go out, come back, work seasonally, and all the diaspora countries, for instance, like Italy or Greece or Ireland, know that quite well. I would also put Poland on that list. Polish workforce has been key for many other European member states. And so the moment conditions in Bulgaria improve, I think at least part of that workforce is going to come back to the country. And I mean, of course, it is about wages. It is about kindergartens for the young parents who have small children, but it's also about the environment, and corruption is an issue. When you think about people's everyday lives, even though they may not be forced kind of to bribe their way through working with official institutions, still the sense that there are different rules for different people, and that's judiciary is not really doing its job, at least as far as the upper floors of the state institutions are concerned, is prevailing. The other area I would say, which is very crucial also for people to consider coming back, is education and healthcare. And COVID crisis showed the limits of current healthcare system across Europe, but also here in Bulgaria, very much so. We need a deep reform of those areas which people really have experience with in their everyday lives.
Speaking of COVID, it's impossible not to ask you this question when I have the opportunity. What is the vaccination rate, meanwhile, in Bulgaria?
I think it's slightly below 30%. It's very, very low.
Do you think that there are any prospects that this will change anytime soon?
This is what the new government is promising, that they're going to emphasize on a campaign. The fact is that there has not been, and I cannot stress this enough, there has not been a public campaign, government-driven, since the outbreak of the crisis, or at least since the arrival of the vaccines. And I mean a vaccination campaign. And this is now slightly coming together, one can tell. Also, private entities participate in this. People realize that it's bad for economy, it's bad for society. But really, those 30% are a testament of a political failure. This is quite clear to me.
So there you have two problems or issues in Bulgaria of European concern. You have corruption on the one hand. You have the low vaccination rates also being a sign of low trust in institutions and so on. A third issue of European relevance is, of course, Bulgarian foreign policy with regards to North Macedonia. There has been a stalemate there for a long time. Do you think that this new political constellation in Sofia will change this in any way?
I observed very carefully the negotiations on the foreign policy chapter of the coalition agreement. And my sense was that all four parties understood quite well that Bulgarian foreign policy is in a dead-end street and it needs to quickly get out of there. Clearly, the policy towards North Macedonia is not only bad for our neighbor, it's not only detrimental for the region as a whole, but it's also really a poorly thought through strategy for Bulgaria itself, because there are many other countries who would like to put a brake on enlargement. And currently, Bulgaria is the only one who takes the blame for it. And also, when you're cornered in such a way, very clearly, there is very little room for maneuver on any other foreign policy issue. Which is to say that this should be one of the first priorities of this government, to start talking to the Macedonian side again and to do it in a constructive way. This was, by the way, also the phrase that went into the coalition agreement, starting from the current positions to build constructively upon them. And I think this is the way to go, demonstrating a certain level of continuity while actually trying to to really change the tone and to really change the attitude.
You have suggested, for example, that instead of focusing on highly charged national or nationalist issues that are picked up by media and used to so to say worsen the situation, focus instead on pragmatic issues, on concrete issues, for example, such as the right of national minorities. Do you still think that this is a way forward?
I think this is a better way of framing things, but even better, it would be to start and talk practical things, to get ministries of transport to agree what is needed in order to finally build a railway between Sofia and Skopje. Do we need money? Do we need know-how? Do we need, how can we, move on that? There should be cultural exchanges, scientific exchanges. There should be a lot more talk about economy, and frankly, when you take the larger context of things, I assume the historical and minority issues will persist. They will be there, but they will be part of a much larger framework. And again, in my view, a much more constructive one.
Thank you very much, Vessela Tcherneva, for talking to us from Sofia and giving us insight into these processes of change in so many ways now underway in Bulgaria. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. And I hope this will be a part of a larger process so we can get another chat on Orban next year.
That's a very good prospect. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.